Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government, your government. St. Kitts and Nevis celebrates its ruby anniversary of independence on September 19th this year. Although being 4 months and a few weeks away, a planning committee was formed and has already convened to prepare for the upcoming milestone celebration. What activities and new innovations can the public expect, and how will the theme for this year's observance be selected? Here with us today are Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natter and also Ms. Vera Galloway, the Director in the Prime Minister's Office. Both Dr. Natter and Ms. Galloway are co-chairs of the 2023 Independence Planning Committee. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. And welcome back to InFocus. As mentioned, we're here having a discussion about Independence 40 with Dr. Marcus Natter and Ms. Vera Galloway. Dr. Natter, Ms. Galloway, welcome to InFocus.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to
be
here.
So you are co-chairs of this year's Independence 2023 Planning Committee. What can you tell us about the extent of your roles as co-chair?
Well, I'll start off.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, so of course, this is a massive undertaking. Right, it's the 40th, and everybody expects this to be grand because it is a grand occasion. Our role primarily is to ensure that we execute something that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis will be proud of, that we ensure all persons at all levels are able to give input and have something along the way that speaks to them and that shows the importance of Independence 40 as we see it. So we are, coordinating the activity in terms of the committee, and we have already had several meetings, and of course there's no paucity of ideas in something like this. So it's a matter of us trying to zone in and hone in on those particular activities that we feel will be impactful for everyone, and that would bring the sort of reverence and respect to the significance of the independence.
Yes, and I think that the 40th anniversary will be a momentous one, and we would want to ensure that we make every effort to mark the occasion with the due respect that it deserves.
Right. Yeah. And can you give us a sense of the makeup of the committee? Who's represented?
I think we have a broad selection of individuals that make up the Independence 40 Committee. We have some members throughout the government system, and we also have some private sector individuals, and we also ensure that we would have reached across the waters and ensure that our counterparts in Nevis are well represented on the committee as well.
I mean, in particular, we have persons from the education sector, communications and information. We have the military on board, the police, foreign affairs. There'll be lots of probably foreign dignitaries here, so protocols are pretty important. And like Ms. Galloway said, it's a national event, St. Kitts and Nevis, so we have very good representation in terms of our counterparts on Nevis who have been tremendous already in terms of giving their input on particular activities they would like to see. So we endeavor to really make sure that a lot of the events are national and that they are hosted not only on St. Kitts, but we'll have national events also being hosted on Nevis, so persons can, move between both islands.
And can you speak a bit about the synergies between the persons from the public sector and private sector? How does that work in the meetings?
No, that works. It works very well. I mean, there's no way that the government alone can or should even, deal with planning independence activities. Again, it's everybody, right? So primary schoolers right up, preschoolers even, right up to the elderly should be involved. What we want to do with the private sector, as you said, synergistically, is make sure we partner with them. We have representation from the cable, for example, on the committee. And so, again, that's a government-owned entity, but a telecommunications entity and so on. So we're looking at how do we forge partnerships with entities like that, looking at the private sector in terms of even reaching out for any type of sponsorship. And it doesn't have to be cash sponsorship per se, but how can we look at, partnering, whether it is them branding items, printing stuff for us, or just simply disseminating the word across their networks when there's a particular activity coming up.
As mentioned, it's a bit, 4 months and a few weeks away before we actually come to independence. And of course, the activities will begin before September 19th, naturally.
Right.
But can you tell us, in terms of some of the activities so far, what has essentially been taking place and planned?
Okay, well, we've had quite a bit of meetings between the committees. I think we would have had 4.
Yes.
Yes. And we have a pretty engaged team of individuals. We have an extensive list of proposed activities, and right now, currently, what I can say, because there's not much I can say in terms of the other activities, but we have to look at those activities that are usually on the calendar, the Requiem Mass, the parade, ceremonial parade, and all of those things. You can expect to see those come back this year, and it's going to be a grand event.
Mm-hmm. Any particular new innovations that are going to be introduced?
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
I mean, it is 2023, so we will definitely be incorporating a lot of technology, hopefully, for persons. We've already started even with our theme competition that was done through social media and the internet. But even outside of that, because of the significance of the event, we want to make sure that whatever the event is that we're doing, that we reach as many people as possible. Often, I suppose in the past, persons maybe didn't really connect to some of the activities, maybe they didn't hear about it, maybe we didn't use enough modes of communication and so on. So we'll be really trying to paint St. Kitts and Nevis, literally and figuratively, in the colors of the flag, so you really feel it. Like you're saying, activities even before September, so you feel that sense of patriotism and pride and independence is really coming. And so we have some nice innovations that we are looking at. We haven't finalized the calendars yet, but that will be coming very soon.
Okay. And in terms of the involvement of persons from across the Federation, St. Kitts and Nevis, as you mentioned, it is a national event, and of course, we are one federation. So can you talk to us about anything about specifically that may be there to involve Nevis, persons from Nevis, in the celebrations? Earlier, you hinted about a back and forth, possibly, between persons traveling between both islands.
Right. So, again, we haven't finalized the activities, but we know Nevis is very good in a lot of particular activities. We know they have an amazing mango festival coming up. Their food fair, everybody I think from St. Kitts goes over for their food fair, for Culturama. So things like that, I think, with an independence twist, we can see happening. If there are any particular, let's say, competitions that may be coming up, right, that we may want to host those on Nevis. They have the facilities to do something like that. Maybe it's a concert that may be coming up that can be hosted on Nevis, you know. Those are the sort of things that we are looking at in particular.
Dr. Nutter, you mentioned competitions, and of course, the Independence Committee currently has one competition that is being run right now, and that would be the Independence Theme Competition. Tell us a bit about that, Ms. Galloway.
Okay, so that's our first official event, the Independence Theme Competition. It's an online event. It was launched on the 14th of April, I believe it was. And, you know, it's important that we send the right message as it relates to our celebrations this year, and that this is where we start with the theme competition. The theme, in essence, must capture the country's 40-year history of independence, as well as its current realities and the standard or shared future that all citizens can reasonably strive towards. This is what we are trying to capture in our theme this year. We ask that individuals make submissions of no more than 6 to 8 words. The competition has been going very well. I think we have in excess of 150 submissions so far. The competition actually ends on April 30th, so we're almost near the end of that. So we are still encouraging individuals to make their submissions. We are excited about it. What we've seen so far, I think that we have a lot of things to be proud of. And I just want to encourage the public to continue submitting their theme, making their submissions for the theme. It's been a well-engaged process, and we are pleased so far, and we want to just encourage everyone to just, you know, keep the momentum going as it relates to the theme competition. Yes.
And of course, you get a cash prize. I mean, you get $1,500 for your idea, your theme being chosen. And not only that, we will definitely be incorporating the winner, whoever the winner of the theme is, in some of the activities. Last year, we started that process where the person who won the theme competition actually hosted the Prime Minister's lecture in September. And so, you know, there's a myriad of opportunities. You have that cash prize and you have that notoriety, and that, you know, you can boast and say, hey, this year's theme for the 40th to boot, I was the person who won, right? And so we look forward to that, and that is going to be significant, in terms of driving what the activities would look like as well. Yes, we have some ideas of the activities, but once we get the theme down, then we can really frame some of those activities. Maybe we have to cut some because it doesn't really fit the theme. Maybe we have to add some to really then make the theme more impactful. So this is going to be very critical in terms of choosing the theme, the right theme, and then using that as we plan out the activities going forward.
Yes, and just to add, I know Capsec could have mentioned it, but just to reiterate, there is a cash prize of $1,500 EC dollars. And, you know, I think that the public has a lot to tap into here, and I think that you know, we should just continue to aspire.
Just a couple of questions on this theme. You said it's an online event, so I gather there are no paper submissions being accepted?
No paper submissions. We're just using email, so persons can submit via email.
And what's your address for that? The email address?
The email address is independenceskn@gmail.com. So that's independenceskn@gmail.com.
Okay, so you encourage that persons are encouraged to send in their submissions by email, and you just gave the address. Is there a limit to how many submissions a person can make?
No, there's no limit. No limit.
Or is there a category as well too? For instance, like I work for SKNIS, of course. Would I be eligible to enter?
Tricky question, Ian.
Well, nobody on the committee, I can say, they're not, you know, they can't enter. No. But you, not because you work for SKNIS, I don't think that you're not a part of the committee.
Right.
And of course, you're a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have not even barred anybody who is outside. You might be in the diaspora and you have an idea. You can send in an email as well. And, you know, we'll work out how we get you the cash prize if you win. But it's really only excluded from the committee members.
So there are no other restrictions.
And that's something is very important as well to highlight there, because the question would be then, as a follow-up to that, how would the theme be selected? Is there a specific separate committee that will go through that and make the assessment?
Well, within the committee, we do have a smaller subcommittee of persons that will be responsible for accepting and reviewing and coming up with a shortlist for the actual committee's selection of the actual theme.
And normally, of course, you wouldn't be able to identify who sends in what. They're just basically maybe given a code.
Exactly.
Correct.
It's anonymously chosen.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So then, let's talk a bit about this theme. Let's stick with this theme, as you mentioned, in terms of, and you hinted at it earlier, Ms. Galloway. Last year, the theme was, of course, the focus was on talent development and sustainable development. I recall that the winner was Ms. Roma. It was Refocus, Recreate, Redesign, Independence 39. So, again, if you could just remind us, what is the focus of this year's theme? What exactly is the committee looking for?
Well, the intention, like I said before, is for us to capture the essence of the country's 40-year history of independence. We're looking at the current structure, the current realities, and where we'll be in the future. I think that the intention is for us to send a clear message that we are a forward-looking nation at the end of it all.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Ms. Galloway is saying, even yesterday, and I think since the Prime Minister took up his post, he has spoken about a sustainable island state. And while we're still crafting that, and he has given some definitions of what he would like to see St. Kitts and Nevis be as a sustainable island state. And so those are things that we would like to see incorporated into the theme. We really didn't want to box in persons to any specific area. We feel that 40 years is a significant number, so just the fact of that 40 years and looking at where we came from to where we are, and then, as Ms. Galloway said, looking forward, we feel like if persons view it that way, they should be able to come up with something rather than us saying, hey, focus on, climate and, something like that, or how we see the economy going. No, 40 years is really significant. Can we look at the totality of our 40 years and then look at, let's say, the next 40, how do we want to see St. Kitts and Nevis look? Then that should probably, spark some ideas in persons' head in terms of the theme.
Right. And as you mentioned, the activities, of course, some of them anyway, will be guided by the theme that would be selected.
Definitely.
And it's important to capture the 40 years of rich history and culture that St. Kitts and Nevis has. Is there anything that the committee can do outside of the theme and some of the activities that are being planned to help to capture and highlight that, to, as you would have mentioned earlier, to push that spirit of patriotism towards the public?
Yeah, well, that's important, as you said. But I want to go back to maybe when you asked about, the private sector portion of things. Clearly, the committee can't do all of the activities. So yes, we'll have some activities, but what we really want to do is have those persons in the community in St. Kitts and Nevis now submitting their own, proposed activities, so that we can, we could have some synergy there. Of course, we tend to call them fringe activities. I don't really want to call them fringe activities because I really think they would form part of the whole independence program that we're looking at. But definitely we want to see other persons coming on board using the theme that is chosen and creating some activities on their own. What the committee would do in that regard is, of course, help to enhance the promotion of their particular private activities. So that's where I see we could kind of collaborate in that way as well.
All right. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with a discussion a bit more about our plans and activities and, the importance of Independence 40 for St. Kitts and Nevis. So stay right with us. InFocus will be right back.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion on Independence 40 with Dr. Marcus Natter and Ms. Vera Galloway. They are the co-chairs of the Independence Planning Committee for this year, 2023. Dr. Natter, earlier you said that it was important for all stakeholders to be involved. Is there any specific focus that is being paid to involve persons that are youthful, that are elderly? Of course, we know that that is a specific focus that the government has in creating a ministry that deals specifically with aging, with youth, and with disabilities, of course, some of the sectors that may be underrepresented in society. Is there anything that is being looked at in that case specifically?
Yes, definitely, definitely. We are looking at youth right through, right? And we are also looking at persons who are differently abled, persons who have who learn differently as well. One of the things that we even discussed, so I'm not going to give away too much, but one of the things that we discussed and that we'll be reaching out to the Minister Honorable Iselin Phillip about is ensuring that we incorporate the seniors. They may have possibly their own day in the calendar where we engage them in some particular activity, where we probably even sit at their feet and listen and learn about, statehood, for example, like when we were a tri-island state, and how do they move from statehood into independence. So we'd want to tap into their own knowledge and wisdom and things like that. So definitely we are doing that. We want to incorporate some activities that would include the youth. We have some arts activities, literal painting and drawing, as well as the arts in terms of music, dance, and so on, that we are looking at already to incorporate young persons in. As it pertains to those maybe in between the young adults and so on, we have a myriad of activities that we are already looking at, that we want to do a lot differently, right? And even the ceremonial parade, we have a lot of ideas surrounding that. It's been 40 years. There's been a great push, even last year, for us to maybe look at how maybe should we replicate perhaps what happened in 1983, right? There are a lot of persons who don't know what happened in 1983 when we gained independence, that the ceremony was in the evening, in the night, right? Do we do something like that, How do we further enhance it? How do we make it bigger? Do we get a larger military band? Do we get, a lot more of the groups to come along and match? So there are a lot of those things that we are looking at and seeing how we could tweak. Again, it is 2023, and we recognize that innovation, technology is really at the fore. So how do we incorporate that? The Sustainable Island State Agenda, a significant portion of that talks about being environmentally friendly. So when we do these national events, how can we make them, less wasteful, less plastic, removing a lot of the single-use plastics? How do we really demonstrate that, yes, we want to move to a sustainable island state, and so we are doing these particular activities. And just one more thing I would probably add on that is St. Kitts and Nevis is gaining independence, gained independence in 1983. But what also occurred there is a lot of significant relationships were built. So we are also celebrating 40 years of diplomatic relations, for example, with the Republic of China, Taiwan, I think the United States of America, and several other countries. So that is also going to be important to capture the significance of those relationships being formed, 40 years ago. So you can see some possible activities surrounding those nations that we have forged a relationship for 40 years now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that would be very significant, given the fact that we actually, as you talk about that, we are hosting diplomats from around the world. Correct. Here, as St. Kitts and Nevis would mark Diplomatic Week. 2023, and I would say that if the public has been paying attention, they will have the opportunity to go out and meet with the ambassadors, meet with the consuls and the other diplomats who are here from St. Kitts and Nevis at Diplomatic Boulevard, which takes place during Agriculture Open Day. And so, that's a good opportunity. And I think that really, those type of activities help to build an understanding of where St. Kitts and Nevis stands in terms of its role in global affairs.
Definitely.
So you mentioned in terms of course, the partnerships with private sector and stuff. Is there any opportunity for persons who are hosting, say, fringe activities to get on board with the independence celebrations?
Of course, there are. What we would encourage is for individuals who wish to participate in the independence activities or wish to be added to our calendar, is for them to submit information to the organizing committee via myself or CAPSEC, Dr. Natzel. And then we will in turn discuss it with the committee and move from there.
Yes.
So we do invite that sort of.
Of course. And again, as we map it out, of course, we'll be putting some dates, proposed dates to some of these activities. So I think maybe then it would give a better idea to those persons who possibly planning activities, because people will plan activities and we want them to do that because we want to enhance the whole product, of course. Yes.
Does the committee in any way, and we appreciate that, this is 40 years and there are new innovations that have been tried, but is there any sort of a connection between the committee, the planning committee, and foreign embassies for St. Kitts and Nevis that are in countries overseas, as we speak about the importance of Diplomatic Week and the valuable relations that we have with some countries? Is there any sort of coordination being done in that regard?
Yes. We actually have Foreign Affairs, as I said, sits on our committee, and they would really take the lead on that in terms of reaching out to the embassies, the consulates that we have, and letting them know the activities we have planned. And maybe they may have their own, thoughts and ideas in terms of what particular activities they would want to even host. And so we would welcome that. But we do have that presence on the committee, so we'll definitely be liaising with those entities in the diaspora to make sure that we get buy-in. Also, we have several of our nationals that have organizations or associations, groups, social groups and so on that are formed in the diaspora in DC, New York, I think, most of the metropolitan areas, London and so on, that have their own associations, Nevis as well, not just St. Kitts, but Nevis as well. So we would want to tap into those persons as well, because we really want to make it an occasion where people want to come back home. Right? We want to create activities that they would say to themselves, hey, this is a significant, moment in our country's history. It's the 40th. I want to come back home and be a part of some of those activities. So that's the sort of thing we want to create.
Mm-hmm. And personally, as we celebrate 40 years of independence, can you speak a bit about what you think or what 40 years of independence represents for each of you individually?
As a nation, I think that we've moved forward substantially in the past 40 years, and I think it's only right that we celebrate how we've built this prosperous nation. I think that we've gotten to a place where we are a peaceful country. And I think that we have not only survived, but we've thrived through it all. So we want to approach this milestone with much optimism, and that is what I hope to see happen for this independence.
For me, I was too young to understand maybe 1983 and what was there before, but I can remember my grandmother talking about she used to sing the statehood song, and then they talk about the attempted coup in 1967 and adult suffrage when they couldn't vote and so on. So for me, although I don't really identify with the pre-independence, before we didn't have independence, just over my lifetime, as Ms. Galloway said, I could see the progress of the country, and I don't think that progress would have been as much if we were not independent, right? Where we were able to make our own decisions, chart our own course. And so that's what independence is really significant for me, because I know we got here because we were able to chart our own course. We made the decisions to bring us here, and it wasn't any outside, power that caused that. So it's really significant to know that we could do it. We could do these things. We are the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere, but we punch way above our weight, as far as I see.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that we have a younger generation that needs to understand that what they've benefited from, the bravery of others, and we must be prepared to continue to build upon the legacy that we've started as a nation. So I think that's extremely important. What we would have talked about specifically for activities this year as it relates to young people, it includes a youth rally, it includes theatrical performances that help them to understand what the journey has been. Like Dr. Natta would have said, I wasn't there either, but it's interesting sometimes to hear the stories that you hear from your grandparents and the elders in the neighborhood. And I really want us to get the young people involved, including myself, so that we can learn more and we can understand. We can understand what would have happened then, and we can understand the journey to where we are today.
And as you speak about legacy, that leads me to a question that I'll come to a bit later, but I want to come back to you, Dr. Natta, in the sense that we established before that you're the cabinet secretary. So you're involved with at least you're there when decisions are being made, when policies are being made that affect St. Kitts and Nevis. So how would you say your experience in that process has transferred to you being the co-chair of the Independence Committee?
That's a brilliant question. Yeah, it's a unique perspective to have when you're sitting in cabinet, right? And I'll tell you, it's really been an edifying experience, because there are a lot of decisions that, let's say, a minister may want to make, that is in the best interest of their particular ministry. But then when we step back and we look at it holistically, we see that one good could possibly affect, the other ministers and their ministries. And so, we get into those areas where we have to discuss and say, what is in the best interest of country as a whole? And so it's a nice transition now, like you said, into being a part of this committee and co-leading the committee with Ms. Galloway, because those are the same things that we now encounter. Because if you get just two people in a room, you could imagine the number of ideas. But our committee has like 15 to 20 persons. So you can imagine all of those ideas, plus our friends and families, people, co-workers who say, why don't you guys do this for independence? We should do this. We've never done this. So it's for us now to really sit down and say, okay, we're getting all of these ideas. How can we ensure that we choose those things that touch everyone in some positive way, and not just because, Marcus really loves Calypso, that we must have this Calypso event, when we know maybe in the grand scheme of things, for example, not everybody may want that. So yeah, the experience definitely in sitting in cabinet and witnessing those sort of constructive discussions, it really segues nicely into what we have to do here as part of the Independence 40 Planning Committee as well.
And of course, that would also include the budgetary process, because
yes.
There is only a limited pool of money, and
Correct.
While everybody has their own priorities, there still has to be a balance to ensure that one side is not represented a bit more. It's about the holistic approach.
Correct. Yeah, budget is all, financial resources are always a big thing, and we have to really make sure we balance that. But we recognize as well that we cannot allow milestones like this to just go by, and be all laissez-faire and say, we don't have the resources. We are a prudent committee. I think the government for sure and the administration is a prudent government, and we recognize that we have the purse, but it does not belong to us, it really belongs to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so whatever we do with the purse, we want to make sure that we use it with wisdom. And so a lot of the activities we want to also make sure we generate economic activity. We allow, persons, small business owners, especially those sole proprietors, vendors and so on, to be able to, make a little something off of the independence and ensure that their businesses continue to thrive. So all of those things we are incorporating into our thinking in terms of what activities we will finally say yes to.
And we go back to the question in terms of legacy, and I'll come to you first, Ms. Galloway, as you speak about the importance of understanding history and the legacy and the contributions of persons who would have gone on before us have made. And that really strikes a chord with what National Heroes Day, where it was established on September 16th, of course, it's celebrated every year. Can you talk to us a bit about the whole aspect of understanding the contributions that the founders would have made and the representations that we have here now in terms of trying to, there's of course the Monument Park at Connery, the National Heroes Park. There's also of course is a monument to the first national hero, the late Right Excellent Sir Robert L. Bradshaw down in St. Paul's. And of course there's some busts, there's one there at the industrial site for Sir Caleb Azariah Southwell, of course, another national hero. Yes, can you talk to us about the importance of National Heroes Day and really what it represents and what it should represent to young people?
Well, and this is me speaking from a personal point of view. Over the years, I have been witness to several independence festivities and activities, and I particularly pay attention to National Heroes Day because I know how dear it is to our country and our people. This year, particularly, the committee, like other years, the committee hopes to place focus on all of them. So we're going to touch every single area. And what I would want to see, like I said before, is for us to involve the youths a little bit more and help them to understand the importance of National Heroes Day, the importance of or why these individuals became national heroes, and help them to aspire to make contributions that will hopefully get them probably to that status someday. Me, myself, as I approach independence, I'm very prideful as it relates to my country. And as we move along, you will see that there are some activities that would have been included in the calendar this year that we wouldn't necessarily think about seeing. And I hope that our people will understand why we put certain things in place as it relates to that.
Dr. Nath, anything you care to add on that regard?
Yeah, sure. I think what is really critical, and what we want to do as a committee as well, is to really capture the independence activities. When I say that, we have this lovely department that goes unnoticed, which is the National Archives. And they're a repository for our nation's history. I know many persons maybe don't know where it is. It's in government headquarters on the ground floor. And so our committee has even talked about having a sort of document and research committee, subcommittee, that will ensure that we capture appropriately, not just photos, simply yes, videos and so on, but really capture the essence of the activities surrounding Independence 40 and make sure that these are deposited in the National Archives, and also engage the National Archives to help us in that. I can tell you we actually have some proposals for documentary films. We have a burgeoning film industry here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we want to tap into that. We have some really good professionals in the creative economy, in the creative space, and we want to make sure we engage them and help them to hone their skills as well. So when we speak about the national heroes and so on, there are a lot of young people who they just don't know, you know, what did these people really do? Because we are not, maybe we've captured it, but we are not disseminating it in a palatable way, probably for them, you know. So we need to ensure that that's what we're going to do going forward. How do we capture these moments and make them palatable to young people? They may not want to go to the National Archives and sit down and leaf through paper. So how do we put that across? Films, short films, you know, quick things that can be sent via WhatsApp, posted on Instagram, reels, you know, those sort of things. So those are the things we want to ensure that we look into so that persons like Ms. Galloway, who love their country and so on, can, at the touch of a screen, be able to share with somebody else who doesn't know, you know, about Simeon Daniel. And why is Simeon Daniel a national hero? So that people can really understand that. So that's what part of our committee we want to really do that in conjunction with the National Archives.
Yes, so the aim at the end of the day is to make it a little bit more interactive.
Yes.
For the public as it relates to the celebrations, and especially place focus on that area where we pay homage to our national heroes.
And of course, I imagine an important part of that would be the use of social media.
Yes.
As Dr. Natta just mentioned, reels and shorts on YouTube, reels on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
Right, important to engage the young people where they are.
Yes.
Right. Any final comments that either of you would like to leave us with?
Well, I would like to encourage the public to stay tuned to our Facebook page, the SKN Independence Facebook page. We still have our theme competition running until April 30th, so I would encourage you to make your submissions online. We are excited about this year's celebrations. I think it would be it's a massive undertaking, but we are prepared for it. And I just want to encourage us all to continue to show our nation's pride in whatever way we can.
And before you comment, Dr. Natta, remind us again how persons can submit their theme, the email address.
Submissions for the theme competition can be sent to independenceskn@gmail.com. There is a cash prize of $1,500 EC, so I would encourage everyone to make their submissions.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Natta, final comments?
Well, Mr. Richards, I just want to first thank you for inviting us to InFocus, where we were able to shed, I hope, some light on the proposed way forward in terms of Independence 40 and what we are looking at. I know we were vague in some areas because we didn't want to give away all of the activities before we really finalize them, but I hope persons got a little bit of an idea of where we want to go and the vision that we have. So we look forward to receiving some more theme ideas. We have quite a few to sift through already, but again, we have Sunday midnight, I think up to Sunday midnight for persons to submit their theme ideas, and we really look forward to that because that's going to be really significant in terms of driving the work of our committee when we are putting these activities together. So again, thank you for the opportunity and inviting us to InFocus, and we will definitely be back with your permission to shed some light when we have some more concrete information to share with the public.
It will be wonderful to have you back and to learn a lot more about the activities as the calendar begins to shape up. I think at this point I need to make a promise on camera where the public is looking at. I probably will not submit a scene because one of the things that happen with the winner is that they're interviewed. And they'll be interviewed on a program like InFocus, and I don't think I could interview myself. You know, that probably is a dull show. So thank you to both of you again, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you, viewers and listeners, for being with us for this week's edition of InFocus. We encourage you, of course, to join us next week at the same time at the same place. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook, at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.